Good afternoon. It's good to see all of you who could be back here with us once again. We sure do pray for those who could not be with us, and we pray that they could be here with us at the next point of time. This afternoon I want to start by asking you a question. What kind of faith do you have? What kind of faith do you have? Let's take an example from football. I know I talk about football a lot while I'm up here, but I know a lot about football. I enjoy it. So, whenever your kicker goes up to kick a field goal, do you have faith that he is going to make that field goal 100% of the time? Does the team have faith? Is he the Justin Tucker of kickers? He's the best kicker in NFL history. Do you have the faith that he's going to make the field goal, or do you have the faith that the kicker is going to miss it? Are you iffy about your kicker making the field goal? Is your faith 50-50, or are you 100% on the faith that your kicker is going to make it? Beloved, we need to have that 100% faith in God, that He will be with us 100% of the time, and that He will watch over His children. Beloved, we need to have the faith that Joshua had. And that's what we're going to be talking about this afternoon, is the faith of Joshua. To start off, we're going to be talking about the spies. And ironically, we're not going to be starting off in the book of Joshua, but in the book of Numbers. If you turn with me, we're going to go to Numbers chapter 13 and verse 25. And we'll be going back and forth between Numbers and Joshua. So if you want to keep your bookmark in Numbers, that might be a smart idea. Numbers chapter 13. Starting in verse 25. Numbers chapter 13, starting in verse 25. And they returned from searching of the land after 40 days. And they went and came to Moses and to Aaron, unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, unto the wilderness of Paran and to Kadesh, and brought back word unto them and unto all the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. And they told them and said, We came unto the land whither thou sentest us, and surely it flowed with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. Beloved, this was a wonderful land that God had given to His children. This land was bountiful, it flowed with milk and honey. It was the Fertile Crescent, as we call it today. It was a wonderful land. Nevertheless, the people will be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. Moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites and Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and by the coast of Jordan. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, Let us go at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. But the men that went up with him said, We be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than us. And they brought up an evil report of the land, which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, The land, through which we have gone to search it, is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof. And all of the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants. And we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. Beloved, though we do not want to have the faith that these spies had. They were men of very little faith, save Joshua and Caleb. Beloved, God had given them this land. He had sent them to search through this land. He had promised them this land, yet the spies said, No, we can't take this land. All they saw was man's creation and the giants. They saw these men of great stature, strong men. They saw walls that were tall and thick. These cities, they were impenetrable by those day standards, for sure. But they did not see God on their side at that point in time. All they saw was fear. They did not see God was with them. These spies were men of very little faith. They were weak of faith. And we cannot afford to be like these spies. We need to have a great faith. We need to have a strong faith. Let's take a look in Joshua chapter 2, starting in verse 22. We'll read a different perspective of spies. The stark contrast in Joshua compared to Numbers. Joshua 2 verse 22 reads, "And they went and came unto the mountains, and abode there 3 days, until the pursuers were returned. And the pursuers sought them throughout all the way, but found them not. So the 2 men returned and descended from the mountains, and passed over, and came to Joshua the son of Nun, and told them the things that befell them." Notice this next verse. "And they said unto Joshua, Truly the Lord hath delivered into our hands all the land. For even the inhabitants of the country do faint because of us." Truly the Lord delivered into our hands all the land. Don't you see what kind of faith they had, beloved? They had a great faith. They had the kind of faith that we need to have today. They had a wonderful, strong faith in the Lord. They believed that God would deliver this land into their hands. They were not like the spies before the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. They were like the spies in this chapter. They were strong in faith. They didn't see themselves as grasshoppers in comparison to these men. They saw themselves as the giants themselves, in a sense. They didn't see these giant walls as being a threat. They just saw them as something to walk through. Then God would allow them to do that. They were men of great faith, and we need to have that faith as well. We need to have the faith to conquer, like they did to Jericho. We see that in Joshua chapter 6, if you want to turn there. We'll read the first 5 verses of Joshua chapter 6. "Now Jericho was straitly shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out, and none came in. And the Lord said unto Joshua, See, I have given into thine hand Jericho, and the king thereof, and the mighty men of valor. And ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war, and go about the city once. Thus shall do 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns. And the 7th day ye shall compass the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the trumpets. And it shall come to pass, when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when ye hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall ascend up every man straight before them." Beloved, do you know how silly the men of Israel must have looked, walking around the city like that? Man, the people of Jericho must have thought they were fools. But the people of Israel had to have a great faith to do that. Who ever heard of walking around a building once for 6 days, and then 7 times, the 7th day, blowing a ram's horn, and then giving a great shout, and then the wall is just falling? Remember, in Numbers chapter 13, it tells us that these were great walls. They were big walls, and they originally were fearful of them. But the people of Israel had that faith that they needed to have. And they walked around the city, and they blew those ram's horns and gave a great shout, and the walls surely did fall. They had to have a great faith for that to happen, because whoever heard of that happening before? I surely had never heard of that happen before I read this. It was truly a moment of great faith for them to have that. However, not everybody who was part of this was a person of great faith. We now go to the Battle of Ai. And if you want some other references for battles where they showed great faith, you have Joshua chapter 10, verses 29 through 39, It talks about the battles of Libnah, Lachish, Gezer, Eglon, Hebron, Debir. In Joshua chapter 11, verses 10 through 11, talk about the battle of Hazor. And Joshua chapter 8 talks about the battle of Ai. These were all references to God helping Israel and Joshua conquer foreign nations. Let's talk about Achan for a second. Achan happened between all of this. He was a man of little faith. Joshua chapter 6 through 7 talks about the story of Achan. Achan, during the Battle of Jericho, did a big no-no, if you want to put it that way. All the loot, all that took place from the Battle of Jericho was supposed to go to God. It was all to go for the glory of God. They were supposed to take nothing from the Battle of Jericho. But he took a garment, 200 shekels of silver, and a wedge of gold. And that would result in the death of 36 men in the first Battle of Ai. And by any margin, that's not a very big number, even by that day's standards. But that was a really big shock to the people of Israel, because God was on their side. They had just taken down Jericho. Nobody could stand in their way. Yet they went to battle with Ai. They were squashed. They lost 36 men. They ran away. They were shocked. They did not know why they lost those men. As 36 families that lost a husband, lost a grandfather possibly, and lost a father. As a result of Achan's sin, his entire family would be put to death because of that. And a lot can be learned from that. One sin can do a lot of damage. Now let's talk about the faith of Joshua. Now we're going to go back to Numbers. This time we're going to go to chapter 14 and read verses 6 through 9. Numbers chapter 14, verses 6 through 9. And Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, which were of them that searched the land, rent their clothes. In other words, they tore their clothes apart. And they spake unto all the company of the children of Israel, saying, the land which we passed through to search it is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord delight in us, then he will bring us into this land, and give us a land which floweth with milk and honey. Only rebel ye not against the Lord, neither fear ye the people of the land, for they are bread for us. Their defense is departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Fear them not. Beloved, that shows a great amount of faith from Joshua and Caleb. Out of the 12 spies, one from each tribe, those were the only two that had enough faith to say, the Lord will deliver us. The enemy is nothing before us. Those walls, we'll just squash them. We need to have the faith that Joshua and Caleb had there. We need to have the faith that despite anybody standing before us saying, we can't do this. We can't go out there and talk to somebody about God. We can't go out there and say, hey, what you're doing is wrong. We need to have enough faith to do that, beloved. Remember, every time that Joshua got nervous or anxious about something, what did God tell him? Be strong, be courageous. You find that in Joshua chapter 1, I believe verse 9. I believe that's Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. There's other instances of that in Joshua as well. But beloved, we need to be like Joshua and be like Caleb and have that amount of faith that we stand up for what's right. The last verse I want to read for you is found in Joshua. It's probably one of the most famous passages in Joshua. You can find it on rugs outside of houses. You can find it on a tile that they put on the siding in a house. Joshua chapter 24, verse 15. All of us know this. We may not know exactly what verse it is, but we see it all the time. Joshua chapter 24 and verse 15. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose ye this day whom ye will serve, whether the gods of your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the God of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I believe that says really everything, beloved, about the faith of Joshua. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. It's hard to do that in today's world. It really is, with all the outside influences, all the people not doing right. But beloved, we need to have this in our heart. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. We need to have that faith. Now, if you're here this afternoon, you've not had the opportunity to put on your Lord baptism, if you've been having problems with your faith, or if you just need the prayers of the church, we ask that you please come forward as we stand together and sing.